Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. Joining me are two people so far. You never know who might jump in later. There's Steven from Texas and Rick from Ohio. And Rick's got his Cleveland Browns hat on. He's not ashamed.
Well, the hat was hitting my forehead so much it always looked like a train was coming towards me, so I thought I better dim it down a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you something. You're proud to be a Cleveland Brown, but there are a couple of players on the Cleveland Browns who are not so proud to be Cleveland Browns. We'll get to that in just a minute. We've got a brouhaha developing with the Cleveland Browns, and something's got to give. It's interesting. I'll start out the program this way, giving you this little piece of information to prove that it can be done. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers fired defensive coordinator Mike Smith on Monday, one day after yet another stinking 34-29 loss to the Atlanta Falcons. Linebackers coach Mark Duffner will serve as the interim defensive coordinator for next week's game. Duffner was the Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator in 2001 and 2002 when large reptiles crawled on the face of the earth. Now we have the bullshit from Bucs coach Dirk Koetter. I have the utmost respect for Mike Smith as a man and as a football coach, Dirk Koetter said in a statement. These decisions are always difficult, but our top priority here is for me to try to keep my job any fucking way I possibly can. And if I have to point the finger at Mike Smith, I'll do it because I'm just that kind of guy.
Mr. Moohead, can I ask you a question in reference to these head coaches? Do you ever notice whenever they make these announcements of somebody getting fired, it always seems like their statement doesn't come off genuine. It comes off as, well, somebody had to get fired. It wasn't going to be me.
Well, that's basically what it is. I mean, I have the utmost respect. I mean, this is what you get in politics, too. Or it's what you get in the Vatican. Let's be honest about this. The goddamn Vatican. I mean, the Pope just sits there and just gives a glowing fare thee well to the American cardinal who oversaw all this sexual abuse in America of children. And it's like, oh, I'm really sorry to see that pedo go. I mean, what kind of thing is that?
Mr. Moohead, the reason why I asked you that is because my buddy coaches at a local high school over here, and he told me whenever the firings come around, you'll see how quick everybody teams up on one person. They're like, he's the reason, fire him. It's like a game of hot potato. He's the reason. Then when it's somebody else, it's just the smallest guy on the pecking order. It's his fault, man.
I will give you a quote. Hi, Brian. How you doing?
Well, I finally got this crazy gizmo to finally work.
Jane, stop this crazy thing. Okay, I'm going old school Jetsons on your ass just because I can. Here's a quote that will tell you everything you need to know about what's wrong with the Cleveland Browns. And it comes from my favorite woman, Mary Kay Cabbagehead.
Oh, boy.
Sarcasm.
Yeah. Hugh Jackson said, we do need to get Nick Chubb more carries. Now,
what an epiphany.
And this is what's wrong with the Cleveland Browns. In the aftermath of a stinking, we're talking about a sweaty crotch stinking performance on Sunday in front of their home fans, Hugh Jackson says, yeah, we really do need to get Chubb more carries. Well, you know something? If I said...
One might even say that it was a fetid crab-filled crotch.
Yeah. I mean, my wife does the cooking here, okay? And it isn't a gender-assigned thing. She's better at it than I am. Although I do the grilling. I do the grilling and the smoking. Not Michael's kind of smoking, but the smoking of the food outside.
The above board smoking. Okay.
Yeah, the legal or non-medicinal, smoking. But if I said to my wife, we really do need to have a ribeye steak tonight, guess what we're having? Okay? I'll give you one fucking guess what we're going to have. All right? Now, that's not to say that I am the lord and the king of my castle. It's simply to say I don't make suggestions of that nature very often, but what I say should carry weight. Okay? It should. Now, if you're the head coach and we really do need, well, then make it happen. That's the problem with the Cleveland Browns. What it tells me is he does not have, as Cartman would say, the authority to do it.
But Mr. Moohead, why does that have to be till after the game for them to make that announcement? Shouldn't this be something they should have figured out in the second half?
Well, no, what it is that he can't do it. You know, it's kind of like, Sisyphus and the rock. I really should have been able to get that extra few feet to get that rock up there. But then it tumbled over me and I was back down on the bottom again. When you're powerless.
This reeks of being a John Dorsey promise at when Todd Haley came in to interview for the job. He wanted total autonomy, and John Dorsey gave it to him and said, don't worry about whatever Hughes says to you. You have my permission to go out and run the offense the way you want to.
Well, here's what I can tell you. And Browns fans all over the country and the world, because we have a worldwide base of Browns fans, even in underdeveloped countries. It's really funny. Not funny. It's really kind of it's really kind of sad that in the poorest third world country, there is a Browns fan whose family is starving and they live in a grass hut, and they caught the game and said, and we did not think it could possibly get any worse. You see? So
they run the chub.
Even when it's like, I would give up my dinner for 3 weeks. For 3 weeks, if you just give the ball to Chubb. This is happening in India right now as we speak. Right in India, in the filth and garbage of Mumbai, there is one Browns fan going, I did not think possibly that things could get any worse than what they are, but I just watched the Browns game. That was the only one they streamed here in my neighborhood in Mumbai, and this is what I was forced to watch.
And then the sacred cow turns around and pees on him.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Was that the sacred cow or what?
Yes.
What? We had the song.
The Black Cow of Death moved to India for just that.
We have a song. I fought the cow and the cow won. I fought the cow and the cow won. Yeah, it's really tough. Being surrounded by a massive beef supply and not being able to do a fucking thing about it. That's what being poor in India is all about. It's like, if I went on vacation, they'd worship me there. Okay, it's like, oh, there he is. They would just go, oh my god, look at him. That is a guy in the podcast. He is a cow. We have to kneel before him. It's like, you stupid fuck. There's like 17 roasts in that cow. Don't you think you could just put aside the afterlife bullshit and feed your family? But the answer is, it's not just the religious right in America that's all whacked out, folks. You can be surrounded by all the answers, but still not get it right because of, yes, you guessed it, Jeebus. Or in this case, or Vishnu, or whoever the fuck it is. It is just the way it goes. And in figures, there are cows all over the street. There are no lambs. There are no pigs. There is nothing else today. No chickens running around. Nothing. Nothing but the beef. And I can't eat it. Yeah. The meaning of life.
One of my favorite insults for people that ask me annoying questions when when I used to have an office job was, oh, I am so sorry, my friend. The guru is now closed. You must be moving along.
No, here's one that I love. It's the Indian doctor. You ever go see an Indian doctor?
Yep,
Yeah, my
all
mom
the time.
has one.
Yeah, Indian doctor. Here it is. He looks at you, puts the stethoscope, puts it on your chest, and goes, "You are very, very sick, my friend." That doesn't tell me anything specific. Yeah, well, at any rate, so here we are. And the Cleveland Browns and their head coach have no idea basically why Chubb's not running. It's because of Todd Haley. And what this tells me is that Hugh Jackson has no control over Todd Haley. But it also tells me that Todd Haley has no control over Hugh Jackson. All right?
Or Todd Haley.
Or his bowels. Or his bowels or anything else. He doesn't have control of anything. Except pitching the ball out at the goal line. He seems to have a real steady, firm grip on that. So
calling it reverse on your own 5-yard line.
Wouldn't it be like the antithesis of business if the owner of the business had a 50% say and his employees had a 50% say? It's like, how come we're not getting anything done? I don't understand. It's like a tug of war that nobody ever wins. That's what it is. I mean, we got two guys. It's like, I'm going to whip my dick out and piss on Hugh. And Hugh goes, I'm going to take a jump in the lake and then my dick's going to shrivel. And then I'm going to whip my dick out and I'm going to piss on Todd. And so it goes back and forth and back and forth. There's no progress made. Meanwhile,
Poor Greg Williams has a little black, one of those dark balloons over his head, thought balloons. It's just pitch black.
And I think what we're brewing amongst the coaching staff.
Well, the other thing, there's Nick Chubb, Nick Chubb, meanwhile, is atrophied. Okay? He looks like a little child from St. Jude's Hospital. Okay? He looks like those polio pictures from back in the 1940s. That's what it looks like. Nick Chubb, he's lost all of his musculature because he didn't get to run the ball. And it's because these two coaches are just dicking around. That's what they're doing. And this is not the way to run an organization. And that falls on Jimmy Haslam, who doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know whether to piss or shit, to be very honest. The only thing he knows is don't sign those checks. That's all that he knows. So this is what we wind up with. It's what we used to call a Mexican standoff before Elizabeth Warren took our rights away from saying that. I'm glad to find out that she's 1/1,000,000th Native American, too. And you want to know the bottom line is when she said it to begin with, I had reservations about that. Thank you very much.
He'll be here all week.
Please, dear God. Yep.
Mr. Moohead, I just hope that these coaches that are beefing amongst each other aren't trying to sabotage the other one.
Oh, well, sure they are. Why, of course they are. What else would they be doing? They're certainly not trying to win, predicated on what I'm seeing. Here's what we found out today in the latest, and as the world turns. So Zane Gonzalez had a slight tear in his groin muscle that he incurred warming up before the Saints game. Ooh. But he said it didn't affect his kicking, so he didn't tell anybody. And then he proceeds to miss his next 3 or 4 or whatever it was. All right, but it didn't affect his kicking. All right, so Zane Gonzalez, it isn't an issue, and I don't want to make Zane Gonzalez jokes because he's going to be healed in a couple of weeks. He went up to see Ernest Angley in the Grace Cathedral, so he's going to wind up healed, and he is going to have the opportunity to latch on with another team. But who in the hell wants somebody who doesn't tell anybody that there's something wrong with his leg? To me, it would be like Pavarotti not telling the promoter that he had a tumor in his throat. It's like, hello, that's what you do for a living. Yeah. But in our world, the head coach doesn't know. And the head coach can't get Nick Chubb more carries, and the head coach can't stop the goofy plays at the goal line because he doesn't have the authority. Now, I wanted to check with some people who I trust. And there aren't any, so I couldn't do that, folks. No.
That went right by the boards.
No. I talked to a number of people who I do trust. And none of these jokers are going to be back. None of them. This is it. This is a one and done, folks. And in order to buy a little bit of patience from Cleveland Browns fans, please understand that when we see a wise general manager not giving either man authority, it's because neither has any authority, and it's because he didn't want Hui in the first place, but he wanted the job. He wanted to be able to pick the talent for the Browns, to build the enterprise up around him. And then, and I already know, I don't know who, but I do know that he has his head coach, and it's going to happen next year. It is done. It is written. It is carved in stone. And with that head coach will come a new offensive coordinator. And the reason I was really pressing people on this is because the aftermath of this game, I mean, Jarvis Landry stormed out of the locker room and didn't talk to the press. He didn't have a word to say. Now, you know, what is bothering him? Well, I think it probably has something to do with the fact that he told the Browns, you know, you got to go out and you got to get my buddy, ... Dez Bryant, because Dez could really help the Cleveland Browns. And, you know, and what he's seen is basically, well, he didn't see Rod Streeter. Rod Streeter broke his neck before he really had a chance. Before we had a chance to say, God, he sucks. He broke his neck. It's a horrible thing. Streeter's gone for the year. But the Browns did nothing to make the wide receiver situation better. And it's funny because the press is saying there's something wrong with the chemistry between Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry. And it's like, yeah, it's called 3 defenders.
Yeah.
God, you can't be so fucking stupid that you don't see what's going on. You can't be that dumb.
Preach.
So, yeah. So it isn't. Don't let Mary Kay Cunt turn your head in the wrong direction with fake news. It is not a chemistry issue between those two players. It is an issue that goes straight up to how serious the Browns are about making Jarvis Landry the player that they said they wanted him to be when they paid him a multi-year deal. That's the first thing. And what it's also about is about the play calling in general and about the entire offensive system. Jarvis Landry is pissed off. Duke Johnson is pissed off. And I found out today, so is Baker Mayfield. But he's not, because he's a rookie, going to say anything. He's going to take the blame himself, and he's going to take the bullet for the team. And it's wonderful. He's not using the ankle as an excuse. He's a leader of men. That's a great thing. But they're all pissed off because they keep getting scripted plays that are downfield throws and nobody who can run the fucking pattern, and none of them can catch the fucking ball. And that is why it will all be torn asunder. And we're going to have the talent, and we're going to, and you know, just stop and think. When Marty Schottenheimer was basically the offensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns, and it's nothing, you know, and I miss Marty. Marty was a good enough fella. I mean, although I would kill somebody who made me wear a tie, but still, Marty at least got us in a position to lose agonizingly in the playoffs. But when he was the offensive coordinator to start things in 1985, boy, was it a boring offense. Are we going to hand off to Mack, or are we going to hand off to Biner? And we're going to let the young quarterback throw the ball, or aren't we? And we're going to, yeah. And then all of a sudden, when Lindy Infante came in, bada boom, bada bing. I mean, the leap that you saw from 85 to 86 with Bernie Kosar was like geometric. You're going to see the same thing with Baker Mayfield. It's unfortunate that we have to sit through this year, because it's kind of like, going to a restaurant and they have your favorite dish, but they only serve it in these minuscule portions, and you can't get more than one of them. And that's kind of what wins are going to be like for the Cleveland Browns this year.
It's deja vu all over again.
No, it's deja vu, because I've been doing this for 15 fucking years. All right.
Austin wants to know in the comment section, should you guys consider getting Amari Cooper?
No.
No.
You know,
he got knocked out in the game against Seattle. He's got a concussion, and I read on the website that I think they want a first-round draft pick for him.
Yeah, they're going to
concussed. Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, they're gonna, and he drops the ball too, which makes him attractive to the Browns.
Yeah, right. That's right in our wheelhouse, isn't
it? Yeah, want to say hi to the people in the chat room because Rod for Sooners. Should they go get Odell Beckham? No, because you know something. Here we go again. This is what are you gonna get? I know what you're gonna have to give up. And I would, if I'm just going to teach somebody a new offense, I might as well go at this point. We're so far into the season. You're not going to get anything out of Odell Beckham this year because none of them is even know the playbook. So, and I don't want to mortgage the picks that we have coming our way because we can get ourselves a great young receiver. So, and I'm confident of that. And I'm confident that Dorsey will select him. So no, I don't want Odell Beckham and his headache in Cleveland. Hi, Modesta Crawford. How you doing? Ron Shane, a lack of preparation showed in the Browns game. Yeah, the lack of preparation is, I think, a lack of motivation. I think when it was obvious to the offense that, all their wide receivers had basically had themselves a Reverend Jim Jones cocktail, there was no enthusiasm on the field offensively whatsoever. None.
You gotta catch the UFO.
Yeah, it was. I didn't see any enthusiasm at all.
Make sure you wear your black turtleneck.
And now Cindy Sanders. Maybe Browns can get Bob Stoops to replace Jackson. Oh God. No.
That's funny.
Enough Ohio State shit. We can't get rid of Carlos Hyde. We can't get rid of him. And again, there's a guy in the chat room here, and I appreciate. I'll get his name here in just a minute because I want to shout him out because hey, he's listening to the shows and he had some comments. Where is he? There he is. Money never sleeps. All right, very opinionated fellow, but. Was listening to the halftime and postgame shows and commenting on what we talk about. He's saying it's unacceptable to be this bad. He's a little bit. This should never have been a throwaway season. Well, it's really not a throwaway season. We found our quarterback, so it's not a throwaway season. I think that maybe you're being a little bit overly dramatic. But thanks for tuning in. We appreciate the input on comments after the show because it tells me some things, but he and I have a disagreement about Carlos Hyde. And, I think Carlos Hyde is a below average NFL running back because he averages this year 3.2 yards, but overall 3.5 to 3.8 yards a carry. And he just doesn't have elusiveness. And I want, and it's like, well, how do you know that Chubb is better than Carlos Hyde? And the answer to the question is kind of an inverted answer, if you will. It's like we have an opportunity to prove that he is or he isn't. All we have is a small number of carries, and he's averaging far more yardage behind the same offensive line as Carlos Hyde is. And the only way you're going to do it is by giving him 12 to 15 carries in a game and see how he does with it. And see how Carlos Hyde keeps his enthusiasm level up if he has to sit on the sidelines for a longer period of time. Because the answer to your question, Money Never Sleeps, is how can you know that he's not better if you never play him? How can you come to the conclusion that Chubb is not as good as Hyde because you can't block? Well, you know something? You're scripting the first 20 to 25 plays of the game. Why don't you let him start the game out so that the plays are scripted? And if you're concerned about his inability to block, come out hard with the running game and give him a chance to get off on the game. What would be so hard about that? And the answer is you got Ohio State University so far firmly planted up your ass that Baker Mayfield couldn't stick a flag up and pull it out. Enough of the Ohio State Buckeye bullshit. This is professional football, and the guy is failing. Carlos Hyde, if he can block, he is supposed to be our bell cow back. He's not a tight end. He's not Darren Fells. He's supposed to be our lead runner. He is failing at that chore. And you want to blame the offensive line? Let's give Nick Chubb a try and see if he does better. And then maybe you'll stop blaming the offensive line. Or maybe it is the offensive line. I just want proof. I don't want people saying, well, he's just not as good. You know? That's just not good enough for me. Cindy Sanders, am I the only one who finds it crazy that these college guys caught every pass at the pros they can't, saying Baker puts too much on it? Well, it's interesting. First of all, nobody ever said Callaway could catch because he never played at the University of Florida last year. So, I mean, well, obviously, we didn't know. We just knew he was real fast. Ricardo Lewis dropped everything that was thrown his way in Auburn. So it has nothing to do with the sauce that Baker puts on the ball because he couldn't catch the ball either. And Njoku, was not a primary target when he played at Miami. Consequently, we had drafted high a bunch of guys who there was no proof that they were able to catch. I think that you do need to get acclimated to the way a quarterback throws the ball. And I think that if you were trying to catch Tyrod Taylor's passes, and then you tried to catch Baker's, the ball is coming at you with more velocity. But that should not be a problem based on practice. But I don't see that. I heard one person say that, and that was Jarvis Landry, and that was a couple of weeks ago, actually, that, got to get acclimated to that. As far as Ratley is concerned, that was a touchdown pass that he let slip through his hands, and later he went up and got one. All right. And he got crushed at the 1 yard line, but he still caught that pass that was also high, and he caught that with his hands. So,
and by the new rules, that was damn near an illegal hit.
Well, who knows what an illegal hit is?
In the ass.
Before I forget to say something, and everybody, if anybody has anything bad to say about me, it's basically that I fucked their wife. That would be the first thing. Okay. The second thing that they would say is that he has this delusional belief for some reason that the referees are fixed in this league.
100%.
Now, let's take a look at Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, a game that we have an interest in from the standpoint that, well, I mean, and I wanted to see Cincinnati lose, but legitimately, I mean, do you realize 7 yards downfield, the Steeler was blocking the guy. He never ran a pattern. The guy never ran a fucking pattern. In fact, before the snap, Antonio Brown moved right as close as he could to him. So the guy, the officials saw the play as before the snap, what it was going to be. And he just plowed. He snow plowed the guy 7 yards down the field. And it's like, oh, we missed it. And then they look up. Hail Rudy! Hail Rudy! Just like the Trumpers do. Hail Rudy! Where's the $1 million, Donald? Who cares? Who cares?
I mean, right? to be fair on that, he should pay 1,024th or whatever her Native American.
He shouldn't have fucking said it. He shouldn't have fucking said it. And you want to know something else? Elizabeth Warren should never have taken that test. That is the dumbest thing you can do because basically you're telling Trump that he baited you. And it's weak. And it's not the type of thing that presidential material does. I would never vote for that mean-mouthed woman. Never, 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 never. Elizabeth Warren is a sack of shit. She's an attention seeker. Yeah. This is, so, what does it prove that she's 1 millionth Native American? In her feeble mind, you see? You see? Fucking moron. Fucking moron. You want to beat Donald Trump? A baseball bat. That's how you beat Donald Trump. You're not going to beat him by reacting to every little silly thing that he says because anything's likely to come out of his mouth. So, at any rate, I digress. All right.
Which is just the opposite of Michael Moore, where anything can't escape his mouth.
Yeah, let me tell you something. I knew him. He was a friend of mine when I was in Flint, Michigan for years. And he's a different guy now. He's not the same guy he was.
You met him?
Maybe he drank the water in Flint.
No, so did I. Oh.
Mr. Moohead,
No, you should have said that out loud.
No.
Mr. Moohead, now that we're on the topic of Baker Mayfield, or we're going to go to that eventually, what did you think about his injury occurring? Something about the first down marker. We talked about that, me and Rick.
It was like Holiday on Ice. He hit it and he slipped. And what happened, that's not where he tweaked the ankle. What happened is he slid on that orange film, if you will, that designates the marker. And he went from that. You know what it would be akin to? It would be like, did you ever play with one of those?
Watch it. No, watch it again. He slipped on the actual upright. The guy had dropped the upright thing that they hold up.
Yeah, that's right. That's a little flag.
Orange and white stripe.
Yep. Now,
slid right across like a slip and slide.
But they also have
exactly what I was going to say. Imagine if you, and every kid did this, they set up the slip and slide like an idiot on their driveway, and then, of course, all good things must come to an end, and they would slide right into the pavement, and they'd end up with a big strawberry across there, like, Mom, this toy's dangerous, and so, but that's what happened to Baker. He slid on that, and then his foot caught on the edge of where it looked like the grass and the sideline kind of come together, and that's where he tweaked it. So and he rolled it, and it obviously hurt.
But he's lucky he didn't break it, because if something would have happened seriously, he was out for the year. How would that affect the NFL in terms of their official and equipment and everything? Like, because that would have caused his injury.
It's always after the fact anyway. It was like, remember the guy in the minor leagues, the third base coach or the first base coach got hit in the head by a line drive, and so he died, and so then they all have to wear helmets now. Actually,
the pitchers are required to wear that funky hat also.
Yeah, I mean, and it still hit him right in the face and kill him. I mean, I don't know what they're going to end up with, hockey masks out there. God only knows. But the first and third base coaches with the helmets, it kind of looked like the short vocational bus that we used to have at home. Okay, it's incorrect. It's politically incorrect. But you know something? I'm doing this for Elizabeth Warren. I'm doing that. And it's like, oh, by the way, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? Okay, enough of that.
Ann Coulter had a great line. She said that the Indians wouldn't even have Elizabeth Warren as on bobblehead night.
That she said that
on Twitter.
You follow Ann Coulter?
No, somebody else retweeted it.
Oh, thank God, because anyone who would follow that, I mean, that's skank. That's a skank. That's what we called a skank in high school. Ann Coulter. I mean, oh my God. I mean, do you want to see what she looks like with her makeup off first thing in the morning? There would be a line of men vomiting into the toilet if they saw what she actually looked like. And because she just looks like a fucking horse. She does. She looks like Secretariat. But without makeup, she doesn't even look nearly as good as Secretariat.
Some of that remark.
And sorry about that. What's the matter, Brian? A little long in the face? So at any rate, guys vomiting in the toilet, and that would start a whole new Me Too movement. It's like, yeah, I saw her too, and I vomited in my toilet. I don't like either party, so I'm equally content in insulting them. But at any rate, no, Baker doesn't put too much on the ball, and I only heard one receiver say that. And it doesn't matter who throws to these receivers; they're not going to catch the ball. Now,
do you think Baker sit out this week? That way, he doesn't further injure the ankle.
My feeling is
option at quarterback, so he's got to play.
Wait, go ahead, Moohead.
Yeah, I kind of think that if it were that bad, he wouldn't have continued to play, even though he's a gutsy guy. I've seen LeBron James tweak his ankle and tighten up the shoes, and what they usually do is they shoot them up with anti-inflammatories, and they and range of motion exercises, and that would not and then tape him up and all that. The problem with Baker is he may not be real mobile, but
would you start him or sit him this week?
I would start him because Tyrod Taylor isn't able to help this team, and he only plays if he absolutely has to. And we'll see as we get into practice this week. We're going to see, and the fact is that we're playing a team that traditionally here is having a bad go of it defensively. Just fired their D coordinator, and if Tyrod Taylor is their defense. If we start him,
hello,
he is the limiter of our ability to score points. So yeah, you start Baker Mayfield unless there's something that shows this week in practice that says we can't do that.
Hey,
that and Drew Stanton hasn't had any reps at all since I don't know what the last preseason workout.
Yeah, I mean he's there just to hold Baker's hand. Austin DeGray is saying, well, then who should they get?
Hey, Moo, I got a quick question for you. I mean, regardless of how...
Oh, wait, I have to answer his question. Who should they get? And the answer is new head coach, new offensive coordinator, and not worry about wide receiver. At this point, the more games we lose, the more justification there is to fire Way, and we'll all be happy. Go ahead, Michael.
I was just saying, regardless of how thin we are at receiver right now, I was thoroughly disgusted, and I know I expressed it earlier with how I thought John Dorsey allowed his ego to get in the way with releasing or trading Josh Gordon. What do you think about that? I mean, are you not? I know you were kind of okay with it, but to see them hand the Chiefs their first loss, he was a big part of that. What do you think of the way that was handled? And we surely miss him now, right?
No, I don't miss him because he didn't want to play in Cleveland. And it's obvious he didn't want to play in Cleveland because, this whole nonsense about the hamstring and all that he came in and started crying about to the Browns literally before, the game. He stood us up so many times that, I really wanted to see him. We were talking about an 8-ball. I really wanted to see him go away, and I don't really care about the New England Patriots. I don't care whether they win, whether they lose. I don't care about that. I don't want that guy on my team because he's a bad influence. And when you take on other guys in the draft who are guys like Desmond Harrison and guys like Callaway who do have a little bit of trouble in their past, and they always find that guy. We don't want him. I mean, we'll find a good receiver in the draft and we'll be fine. We'll be just fine.
Mr. Moohead, do you think it was smart to give him to New England and not like a bottom tier team to get something, maybe even if it was a little less value?
Do you really believe, after everything you've seen with the NBA, Major League Baseball, and professional football, that teams... I mean, do you really believe that the teams decide this shit?
True.
I mean, it's New England and Pittsburgh, isn't it? Yep. Every single good thing that can happen, every call, every bit of publicity, it's all good shit. Quarterback could rape women. Hey, he's a Steeler. Look, do I think it was smart to give, you weren't going to get anything for him. And that's the funniest part of it. After the Kyrie Irving thing, where there was nothing wrong with Kyrie Irving and we couldn't get anything for him. We couldn't get, only one team bid for him. Now, how is that possible?
Right.
How is that humanly possible? And the answer is, as Lady Gaga would say, he was born that way. This is the way the league was born. There is a one-way ticket to Los Angeles, to Boston. There is a one-way ticket. They can't be bad for very long.
Right.
Oh, to do day. That is the history of the NBA.
Yeah. That's like if James Harden turned into Josh Gordon and then the Rockets are willing to trade him and Golden State's his only suitor. Oh, we'll give you a second round. We'll give you 2 first-round draft picks for next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what do you want to do with Boogie? Where do you want to go? And it's like, well, I could get a multi-year probably, but I want to solidify that by having a year at Golden State. And it's like, yeah, right. They all end up going to the one team, and didn't matter how bad Jeannie Buss screwed up the Lakers, and it's not done there yet, because once they see that Lonzo Ball really plays like an amputee, once they see that, they're going to need more players there, and they will get them next year. They will get another big time free agent, and that's the way they'll get
the Lakers got time. Remember, you mentioned that previously months ago. You said the Lakers had what the Cavs didn't have. They have time. They're not rushed to win a championship.
Yeah, LeBron gives the Cavaliers basically 1-2 years at a time and says, win now. And he gets to Los Angeles like, we can build. Yeah, you can build your production company. Go away from me now. I cheered for you. You delivered for me. We're even. I'm all good with this. But now you stay in Los Angeles and you ingest the smog and pray to God that little Bronny doesn't end up with lung cancer. Okay? We're done. We're done. Fair enough.
Or becomes a wino.
What?
Or becomes a wino.
Yeah, there's always that possibility too. Money Never Sleeps is saying 3.3 yards and 75 yards a game isn't a productive running back in the NFL. Trent Richardson was just like that and got traded. So why does Hyde get a pass on his garbage play? I'm a big Chubb fan. Oh, I thought Money Never Sleeps. I got you wrong, buddy. I thought that you were, maybe it was somebody else in the comment section who was pimping Carlos Hyde. I'm sorry, buddy. Yeah, and that is what it reminds me of, is Trent Richardson. It reminds me of a guy who, there are plays that I see yards being left on the field with Carlos Hyde, for sure. For sure, cuts that aren't being made.
He gets to the line and then runs right into his blockers.
That is exactly right.
Richardson 2.0.
You know what it reminds me of? Every running back I had when I played that vibrating football game when I was a kid.
Do you remember that shit? A little cotton football underneath it.
That's right, the little felt football. You remember that? It's like your mother going,
turn it off.
Turn it off. Why is he running backwards? Because Todd Haley called the play.
No, it was the last play of the Buccaneers against the Falcons. They're just recreating that.
God damn.
You're talking about that electrical thing, right? Where you put the football players on there, you turn that
damn thing. Oh, yeah.
They never run in the direction you want them to. They run fucking backwards, and it's the same thing.
It's Hyde. It's like you have a big hole that you got, and the guy just runs into the backs of his own players. He's Carlos Hyde.
You literally have to set those guys up, and as soon as you turn it on, the whole offensive line runs towards the safety. I'm like, where the hell are these guys going?
Well, we didn't have video games back then.
Fortunately, back then, they didn't have the referees. They'd be throwing the flag each time for illegal motion. Number 72, again.
No, you know what it would be? It would be like this. It's the new video game, Real NFL Live. And people going, I want to be the Steelers or the Patriots.
Well, it can't be worse than this. It can't be worse than that soccer thing where you have the little pugs on the side and you got to move the soccer guys and hit the ball.
Oh, the little
lateral side to side.
Foosball.
That's what I love that. The hockey too, but the foosball was good because foosball actually, it was great exercise for masturbating. You stop and think about it. It's
right, the rest.
Yeah, that's right. There was a purpose behind that when you were kids. It's like, I got necks.
Yeah. You had air hockey for your elbows.
Yeah, and the hockey game. Do you remember the USA-USSR hockey game that was in arcades back when we were kids? It's like, oh, say does that star-spangled. That's how the game began. It's like, Jesus, it sounds like Bronx singing the national anthem.
Jesus.
God damn. It's a goddamn Quaalude game.
Was the game
Yeah.
How was the gameplay, Mr. Moohead? Was it any good?
On the hockey?
Yeah.
It just like foosball, kind of. It's kind of like you're going from row to row, and so there it didn't really capture the whole spirit of a game that was supposed to be played on ice, But back then, I mean, it was either that or playing the Rocky pinball machine, or Space Invaders, or things were. We were wowed back then by. Yeah, that's right. Right, we were wowed by that shit. My generation was like
the original Star Wars game.
Yeah, I mean,
you got to blow up the Death Star.
Oh, I'll tell you, my favorite one was Galaxians and Galaga. I mean, that was like, yeah, oh yeah, I grew up on that shit, and then when I started coming, I had every video game system when I was, when I started growing up. I had an Atari 2600. I mean, that was really weird because it's like, I guess I'm the cube. The cube on the screen. I guess that's me. And then after that, it was the Atari 5200. And then Atari said, that sucks. And they went with the Atari 7800. Then they said, nah, that really sucks. We're going to start making computers. And then ColecoVision came out, and it's like,
I had ColecoVision when I was 5. That was awesome.
That was great. That was the first in my mind.
Sub-Rock.
That was just.
Remember, like Hubert, and like Donkey Kong. I think it was Donkey Kong.
Yeah, that Donkey Kong Jr. They had. Oh yeah, I mean, and it actually looked like the arcade game, and it was like, wow.
We always played Sub-Rock on my brother's friend's ColecoVision.
And that cool little joystick too. It was like rectangular with a little knob on it.
Well, if you really want to see something funky.
We had the Intellivision, so you could actually play, like on the baseball game, you could pick which one of the players you were to go out and field. But if you didn't pick the right player in time, you were the catcher, and so you ran out to like left field to go field the ball.
They didn't think of everything in those days. No, if you want to
drill, and there was a sweet spot down both lines where if you hit it just right, it was a guaranteed home run every single time.
Really?
I can tell you one thing about Intellivision baseball, and that is the notion of being able to score from second on a single. The ball would go to the center fielder would throw it, and the ball would materialize in the catcher's mitt in a split half a second. It was like, how'd that get there? It was like fucking Scotty beamed the ball up to the catcher, and he's like, "Why did I run? God damn it!" Yeah.
Now imagine going from that game to the one that Nintendo had, RBI baseball, where the whole fucking team moved, and it's like, how in the hell am I supposed to field anything?
Now, if you want to look something up, guys, and we have to go on and talk sports here, the sports action controllers for the ColecoVision, it was toward the end of the life of that product, and you got to look it up. Just look it up, Stephen, online. The sports action controller for ColecoVision. It came packaged with a Buck Rogers video game.
Nice.
And it allowed you to play Rocky Boxing and a few other games. That was the weirdest controller I have ever used in my life.
The sports action what?
Sports action controller for ColecoVision. Oh my God. All right. At any rate, let's see. So who should the Browns hire as coach? You can ask Dorsey that. He's already hired him. But he's not going to tell you that. General Dog, I looked up soft in the dictionary, and there's a picture of Hugh Jackson's dick. Boy, we're really getting personal here in the chat room, aren't we?
Must have just walked out of the lake then.
God damn. We got a mean crowd here in the chat room. God damn. Amsterdam says, I hate Ann Coulter. All right.
That controller kind of looks like a TV remote / early version of the telephone.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that was the weirdest game controller. Yeah, share the image, man. If everybody, guys, look that up. It's the weirdest thing you've ever seen in your life. Amsterdam saying Hugh should wear a pith helmet. Yeah, maybe he'd pith himself. God, I have to do this because people take the time to make these comments, and a cow it's like a shooting range. I have targets that I can aim at. Hyde won't get less carries till Hyde gets hurt. Simple as that. Well, money never sleeps. We might be able to help that along.
Might be able to accommodate him.
Yeah, maybe we should, at practice, put a bunch of those little orange flag things that Baker slipped on every time Carlos gets the ball. All right, here's money never sleeps. Let's be honest, the entire O-line would be second stringers on other teams, including overrated Batonio. Well, I'm not going to get down on the offensive line until I start seeing a cogent sequence of plays that are schemed properly. These plays are not schemed well. And Brian Baylark says Chubb has way more big play capability than Hyde. Yeah, and Hyde has 5 years and counting in the league and proof that he doesn't, he never ran the ball as far in one carry as Chubb has in his 12 carries this year.
Mr. Moohead, the Browns kind of give you a good bad feeling at the same time. You should have been 5-1, but feels like you're 1-5 kind of ordeal, doesn't it? Doesn't it kind of give you that feel?
No, what it feels like to me is what I said in the beginning of the season. But we got our hopes up, and which is more than Hugh can do with his dick. But we got our hopes up, and we suddenly were in a position to have a winning record, and people start saying, we might challenge. For the division and all of that. And like I said, we did what we were supposed to do to get more talent on the defensive side of the ball, but the offense lagged behind. I'm thrilled we got our quarterback, but we obviously don't have a full complement of what we need offensively on this football team. And and especially when injuries come, and it's coming hard at linebacker, it's coming hard at wide receiver, it's going to affect this team more dramatically than it's going to test a veteran roster where it's really next man up instead of next child up. And we really don't have a lot of depth on this team. So, no, I'm not negative that way about it because this is kind of what I knew, but it was disappointing that we played. What's more disappointing to me is that we had no energy and we didn't give effort, and even the players after the game said that they were lacking effort. And when that happens, we know that the problem is motivational. We know the problem is inside the organization, it's the coaching. So, but we know why.
Yeah, many people were claiming right at the beginning of the game, you could see that the energy was sucked out of the building, literally, or at least it felt that way.
Something happened, and I can't know what that was, but something happened that brought this group of players down in a big furry hurry. I don't know what it was.
Hopefully this is just a wake-up call that, better now than later. I mean, I think they were feeling themselves way too much. They were listening to all the pundits in the media. And, even though we are short at linebacker and receiver, I still see them bouncing back. I mean, I thought they were going to make the playoffs, but doubtful now. But I still think that was just an anomaly with how poorly they played yesterday. And
we're going to have to move Kirksey, inside. Yeah. And by the way, Avery, the reason we didn't hear his name, there was nothing wrong with him. He wasn't hurt, but he was not statistically in the game. He did not make a tackle. I never saw him. No, yeah. I did not see him. He's a big guy too. You think you'd notice him. Number 55. No, wasn't there.
I didn't even notice him.
Now, you want to know what the funniest part of this is? I mean, not funny in the sense of, God, this is going to be gut-wrenching, so funny that you're just going to vomit all over yourself. You might vomit all over yourself, but not because it's really funny, is that Avery was credited as being a great bull rusher to the quarterback, but also a great guy to seal the ends. Can you believe that? And look what happened to us. They asked Ogunjobi, what the hell happened?
Oh.
No, his comment was, well, if they get you leaning in the wrong direction, they kind of got us leaning in the wrong direction. And it's like, you were biting on everything. You were overly aggressive, and they blocked you into oblivion. That's what happened. They did a great job of game prep, and we were predictable, and there were no adjustments made. And we just kept biting, and they kept running misdirections and end arounds. It's just that simple. We kept falling for it.
Braun did call for that blowout, and none of us saw it coming. We were all we all predicted Browns were going to win and gave our scores, and he called the blowout. It happened.
Yeah, if they would have showed up, it would have been a much better game, but they didn't.
Yeah, Money Never Sleeps says, look here, Moo, I have a Browns tat. I spent a lot of money on shit for this franchise. I went to every camp till they started the fucking ticket BS. Yeah, I mean, I'm not questioning your credentials as a fan. We're all fans. I can honestly say I didn't spend money on the organization directly because I've spent since I was 8 years old. I remember listening to the Browns games on the radio when Jim Brown was still playing for the Browns. I mean,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Sunday's always been Browns football, so I've been around a long time. I'm not one who likes to wear football clothes and jerseys and things of that nature. I did used to have a shrine. As a matter of fact, I actually brought some of it out. I'm wondering if I can do this. Hold on a minute. Maybe I can.
Hire Tanya Harding.
Wait a second here. Wait a second here. Let's see here. See that?
Oh, there it is. There's some of it.
You see?
A couple of pillows or a pennant pillow.
Pennant in the back. There's a mug, a dog's mug. There's the Browns hat. There's the pillows, and there was a bunch of more stuff. I have a Spielman jersey. I have a Kozar jersey.
What are those trophies?
I'm a tournament tennis player. Yeah, and I've got some hardware, baby.
I'd be really impressed if you had a Leroy Horde jersey.
Wow, Mr. Smith, that's nice.
You know what you do?
Or Mike
You keep the 44. You cross out Horde. You put Kelly. Nobody knows the difference.
Hey, Mr. Moohead, when Jim Brown came in the league, I think it was a '58 season, right? Who was the first quarterback you played under? Do you know? Just trivial.
Milt Plum. Does that
Might
sound
have
right?
been it, yeah.
That
When
was
did Otto Graham leave?
Say what?
That was Otto Graham.
Was it Graham first and then Milt Plum?
Graham played till about what, 60?
I don't know that he
in
actually
that American Conference.
I don't know if he made it into the 60s.
He played for Syracuse for 53 to 57. I know that because
yes. Well, Jim Brown started in 58 and he remained until 65 and 66, and then he'd gone. But I don't remember. I just remember that Milt Plum was the quarterback for the Browns before Frank Ryan was the quarterback.
Yeah,
for the Browns.
Dr. Frank Ryan.
Yes, and see, from my childhood, I could tell you that Frank Nanowski was the backup quarterback for the Browns. All right, or Jim Nanowski. I'm sorry,
Jim Nanowski.
Yep.
Ernie Green ran with Jim Brown, I believe.
Number 48. He was paired up in the backfield with Jim Brown, and of course Paul Warfield.
Gary Collins.
Gary Collins,
number 86.
Well, Marion Motley was on the team when Brown was drafted.
Number 76. Big running back.
Big guy. Big guy.
Brown retired in 66, right?
Yeah. Then he became a movie actor.
Yep. Yeah. So I remember all the guys kind of from the championship kind of period of time when which went back, going back to 1964, 65, 66, 67. And then the quarterback, then Bill Nelson became the quarterback of the team. Yeah. And former Steeler became a Browns quarterback. And then, of course, the whole Mike Phipps debacle. And then Phipps and Sipe and Sipes and Phipp. And then Phipps went to Chicago and Sipe became the quarterback. And I'm trying to remember Dr. David Mays was a backup quarterback behind Brian Sipe in the year that Sipe got his shoulder separated by the Steelers. I've been around a long time, Money Never Sleeps. So I feel you here. I feel you. We're all frustrated.
Rushing seasons?
Say again?
Did Jim Brown have any 1,000-yard rushing seasons?
What do you mean, did he have?
Oh, how many he had? How many?
He would get over 10,000 yards, didn't he, in 9 years?
Every year.
I think.
Every year he had 12,000 yards in his career, and he played 9 years.
9 years.
Oh, wow, okay.
And there were only 12 game seasons back when he played.
Yeah, there were only 12 games. Yeah.
That's right. So I think damn near every year. I think probably maybe 1 year he didn't, and the rest of the years he did. But I mean, he was.
That's amazing.
Oh, I mean, Shafrath, the pulling guard, the sweep.
Gene Hickerson.
Yep.
Somewhere there was Milt Moore, but that was later, I think. Tight end.
Who?
Milt Morin.
Milt Morin, number 89. Oh yeah.
Chuck Noll was a offensive guard.
Who was?
Chuck Noll.
Yeah, he became coach in Pittsburgh like late 60s, 69 maybe.
Fuck Chuck Noll. Chuck Noll, I used to grab my crotch at him whenever they'd show him on the TV screen. I don't like that guy. Yeah. But no, I mean, we're all frustrated. We've all supported the team, and finally, his final comment here, Money Never Sleeps, because I'm giving him his, he says, I'm sick of I'm trying to see what he said because I just lost it. Gosh darn it. Just tired of being tired with the dumpster fires year after year. I got married on September 10th and always went to the home opener, always lost. Makes for a shitty celebration for anniversaries. Yeah, poor guy.
Jeez.
I know.
Rained on my wedding day.
And you know what the worst part of it is? When you're a Browns fan on your wedding night, you don't even score.
Oh.
Thank you.
Or you get a challenge flag from your wife.
Upon further review.
Have a replay on that, please. Let's look at the film.
Unlike Hugh Way Jackson, she can actually find the challenge flag.
Yeah, right.
Mark Jones has asked me a question. Hey, Moo, don't you think the Cavs would have been better off breaking the team up and getting draft picks? They look like an 8th seed team. They're not an 8th seed team. They're not going to. I mean, to believe they're an 8th. I mean, look, the Pistons are way far ahead of us. I mean, they've got Blake Griffin, they've got Drummond, and if Reggie Jackson is healthy right there, that's like a big 3 compared to anything we have. No, we're not going to even be 8th. I saw that the guy from Cleveland.com, he said they're going to be 37 and 45. I'll eat my dog's crap if they win 37 games. I mean, let's be honest.
All 25, maybe.
Hey, we're going to hold to do that. What's his name? Aaron Goldhammer on 850. He had to eat horse poop because I don't know what he said, but they brought it in and he ate crap out live on here.
What was this?
This is local Cleveland radio. Just about a month or so ago, he ate horse shit.
Yeah, well, once people see how bad Jetty Osmond is, turning the ball over, putting the ball on the floor, and not being able to shoot, people are going to realize that it's like, no, we can't shoot. We're the gang that can't shoot straight. We're not going to score points. And I don't think anybody is really thinking right now, but you realize we're going to attempt to play an up-tempo game with George Hill as the point guard. I mean, you know what that's like? And I like all these comparisons that I make.
No, what's
like trying to win the Daytona 500 with a 75 Buick Estate wagon with 2 blown cylinders.
No, it would be like putting your money in Dancing on the Stars, the show Dancing with the Stars, and you decided that you believed that the guy with cerebral palsy was going to win. Okay, it's not gonna happen, folks. George Hill is like the pillar of salt. I mean, he played for the Indiana Pacers, and the Indiana Pacers are still playing in the movie Hoosiers. All right, when he was with that team, that's who they modeled their offense after. The goddamn, what was the name of the Hoosiers team? Hickories, the Hoosier Hickories. Our hickories don't break. Yeah, right. Yeah. And I don't remember Hill when he was in San Antonio. I don't remember Pop running a big fast break offense either. I mean, so it's going to be a train wreck. It's going to be a train wreck, folks. And, it starts on Wednesday at Toronto. And Toronto, it's going to be a cleansing for Toronto, kind of.
I think I played Boston, right?
until they lose in the first round of the playoffs again. But it will be a cleansing of sorts because they'll beat the Cavaliers by an excess of 20 points. And now Larry Nance Jr., we signed him to 4 years, $45 million. He's hurt. And I'm telling you something about Larry Nance Jr. He's a really good guy. He really is. But he's injury prone. And the reason he's injury prone is that when he was very young, like not like young, like 6, 7, 8, 10 years old, he hit a growth spurt when he was in high school where he went from 6'2" to 6'9". Okay.
Wow.
And it was, and he has had extremity injuries ever since. And he's starting out this year. He twisted an ankle, and they're not sure if he's going to start or if he's going to even be able to play. He's not starting. Tristan Thompson is starting. They want more beef, they say, more muscle down low.
Yeah.
But they say that there's a good chance that he's going to start out the season sitting, and that means next man up is Ante Zizic. Now we're going to play an up and down game with Ante Zizic. It's like, can you see Ante Zizic after the game? Fred McLeod interviewing Ante Zizic, and it's like, so Ante, what was it like out there? I could not catch up to anybody. I was running. I felt like a hamster on treadmill. I could not catch anybody. You know.
I run one way, everybody run the other way. What is this?
It's like I go one way, they go the other way. Like, yeah.
I was chasing moose and squirrel.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to work. Not going to work, folks. And
there's your Bullock reference for the show.
And you know that the Nets even won 28 games last year with a lot of effort. I mean, do you really think that Kyle Korver is going to be able to run up and down the floor with the second unit? I mean, he's going to need a lung transplant. And a lung transplant, and
maybe a wheelchair.
Yeah, and Channing Frye's not going to play. I mean, the Cavaliers don't. Do you think that what's the guy's name that we got from who played in Houston? Sam Decker. Do you think that Sam Decker knows where the ball's going when it leaves his hands?
Nope.
Guy can't shoot. I mean, we've got a bunch of guys who shoot threes who can't shoot. And it's I don't know.
I think it's Dan Gilbert's ego there, like where you talked about he's going to get the Cavs the AC just to prove to LeBron that he can do it.
I think it's a sobriety issue, and he's losing. Okay,
Gilbert's got an ego. I don't believe that.
Yeah, Dan Gilbert. I mean, it's like, do you notice when they're interviewing him at the game, they put like 6 pillows under him to prop him up higher, Yeah, I think he has a bit of an ego, yeah.
It's the notorious Mr. Big.
and I can't remember. Mr. Big.
That's from Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh,
They used to have just they'd have this 9-foot shadow, and then it turned out it was a light shining on a 2-foot guy.
Yeah.
With his metal munching moon mice.
Mr. Moohead, is it a must-win for the Browns this week? The only reason why I'm asking because the gauntlet after that's pretty tough after Tampa Bay. You got Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Atlanta, Bengals, Texans. I mean, that gauntlet there is pretty tough.
Well, I don't want to shoot you down here, Stephen, but this is a must-win week. That's Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, ESPN, 47 meaningless talk show bullshit talk.
All right, fair enough.
Must win. In whose universe did anybody believe that the Cleveland Browns would be competitive anyway? So must win. There are some teams that get a little bit close. They were saying, God, look at Pittsburgh. They're sinking like a rock. And now all of a sudden they're just a game behind Cincinnati.
Yep.
No, it's not a must-win week for the Browns. You know what? The only must in the Cleveland Browns is effort, is to go in and to play with intensity and to play hard and to show that they can get themselves back up and out on the field and hitting and playing hard. That's it. What I would do if I were the Browns, knowing that Jameis Winston is starting, I think that what they should do is get a bunch of merchandise from the mall and place it behind every first down marker. And I think Jameis will run out of bounds to get the merchandise and steal it instead of the first downs. That's what I think.
Buckets of crab legs every 5 yards.
Mm-hmm. Back.
Yeah, 5 yards back. Let them run backwards and get them. Yeah.
I just feel from a confidence standpoint, if the Browns went 3-3 going into Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh would look at it a little bit more serious versus a 2-4 on a Browns on a 2-game losing streak there, you know?
Look, Cleveland is going to be a team that if you don't play seriously, and the Ravens prove this, the Browns will beat you. But if you come in with your mind set like the Chargers did, you're gonna stomp all over the Browns. You see, right now, what nobody's talking about in the media, they're talking about Baker's ankle, and they're talking about that he had a bad day. They were talking about how they forced him to stay in the pocket, which I thought was really ridiculous because Baker couldn't run out of the pocket.
Yeah.
What I saw is that they took the middle of the field away from him. Because if you look at Baker, the first place he looks is the middle of the field. He loves the crossing patterns. He likes using his tight ends, the quick hit to the tight end. He likes using Jarvis Landry on slants over the middle. And they took the middle of the field away from him to force him to, from the pocket, in essence, have to throw the ball from sideline to sideline. That's what I saw. And I think it's going to be interesting as we go from week to week to see if this is a pattern which develops, if it's going to be like the cover 2 was to Kelly Holcomb, if they're going to try to drop linebackers in such a way, because they were not blitzing against the Browns. They were just running a 4-man pass rush for the vast majority of the game, but their linebackers were dropping back into coverage and taking away the middle of the field. I'm going to be real interested in seeing if this is what continues to happen. If that is the Achilles heel that they have dug up by watching film on him.
Hey, real quick, before you let us go here, I heard you before I was able to jump in. You mentioned something about how you got sources that were talking about definite coaching changes in the off season.
Yeah.
Are you able to elaborate any more? And are these sources within the organization, or you can't really even spill any of the beans?
I am not allowed to say a damn thing, and I don't say much of anything about these things, and I never, ever, because things fall in my lap periodically. And but it is, I mean, for one thing, it was obvious enough to me when I'm seeing the way that that the head coach is talking, that he does not have authority over the people who are around him. He doesn't have any authority over the defensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator is autonomous. And what exactly Hugh does, I'm not exactly sure, except the top of his head reflects any light that's above it. I don't understand what else he does. So I guess the players, when all is said and done, are not going to go to bat for any of these people. They're going to be so frustrated, and we need to bring in a better communicator and a group of communicators. One thing that we saw even in Hard Knocks is that Haley is harsh, he's critical, and he is not a booster of morale. All right. That's one thing that we saw, that he's emotional, he gets carried away, and he says things that he feels the need to apologize for after he says them. But things are forgotten when you're winning, but when you're losing, these things don't get forgotten.
No, of course not.
And after years, Ben Roethlisberger just got sick of the shit. That's all you have to do is take a look at his history. Besides the Cardinals' one good run that he was involved in, you take a look at where he was and how his job was terminated every time, and he left a trail of discontent behind him with the players as far as the way he interacted with them. And the fact that the head coach cannot interfere in what he's doing, we're getting Todd Haley unfiltered to the players, and now we're seeing Jarvis Landry go off the deep end. And we're going to see other players go off the deep end if it continues. So
if
I vote for John Fox.
Say what?
I vote for John Fox.
You know, I think that you need to find somebody with experience.
Mark Jones says if Hugh gets fired, will that be Ken Dorsey's call? I mean, will that be Dorsey's call or will that be Haslam's?
Yeah, well, I think Haslam is the person who would sign off on it, and Dorsey would be the guy who would, you know, what would happen is Dorsey would make the statement, and Jimmy would sit at his side with the cameras on and sweat, because that's all he does.
Dorsey would swing the axe with the Haslam's blessing, basically.
For sure.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, it's not like Dorsey's working autonomously. I mean, Dorsey is the guy who is the most solid of all of them. And, you know, you're only as good as the last thing you said or did. That's always the history of all things at the top. Right now, Dorsey's stock has risen because of the players he got in the draft, and he's going to bring in his own coach. If he brings in another dud like a Shermer kind of guy who he owes a favor to, then, you know, he's going to be on the firing line like everybody else. But right now, there's nobody who believes that Hugh Jackson is still here, really. So nobody's going to save him.
Oh, a cameo.
Hi, Mrs. Moo.
Oh,
here it is. Here you go. Here's my message. I'll share the message. Can you read it?
Your food is already prepared.
Moo.
You don't want to see Greg Williams go, though, do you?
No, but I do want to see that if they continue running misdirection plays at the line and there are no adjustments, yes, maybe I will.
Oh, he's got to be cleaned up.
Just let it grow on me a little before I say yes. But no, I don't think his job is in danger. I think that Hugh and and Haley are really going to have a problem here, and they're going to be shown the door together. That is what I'm hearing.
Both of them.
How about
wow?
Yep, gone.
How about Amos? Would Amos be in that group as well?
No, well, there ain't no new head coach coming on who's going to keep that bum. I mean, you got to remember that when you're a head coach, I mean, you from the moment you're hired, you're going to be fired. That is really the truth. Yeah. So you're going to bring your people in. The one thing that you're never going to do, and it's what never made sense to me about this Huey Jackson thing, is that why they kept Huey when he was clearly not the choice of Dorsey, and we've speculated as to why that is. But they're going to bring in, they're going to bring in their own guys, and you know, no coach is going to allow himself to walk into a situation where he's not in charge of his show. And they're not going to have an autonomous this and an autonomous that. You know, even, I mean, Lindy Infante was about as autonomous a guy as Marty Schottenheimer would permit. But nobody believed, everyone knew that Lindy was preparing to be a head coach, which failed, of course, in the long run when it went down. But Marty was in control of that thing. I mean, that was, and Infante was a kind of a difficult man to work with, to be very honest. But Kozar and Infante were on the same wavelength, and it worked. So
how did they get it to work out then? If you said he was an impossible guy, if Infante was impossible to get along with.
Well, because Kozar was about as coarse and abrupt a young quarterback as you were going to have, but he bought into, he understood what Infante felt he was too smart for the room. That was Lindy's problem all those years ago. And because of that, he came off as arrogant to people. But Kozar bought into the concept and understood it and executed it so well that it was really something to behold. And I think that no head coach is going to come into a situation like the Cleveland Browns now without having their group of people in tow. And a defensive coordinator, if the team, if a game, you know, was like an aberration that we just saw, and we have a good rest of the season defensively, they're not going to replace Greg Williams. But a coach who comes in is going to have offensive credentials. And that means he's going to have an OC background. And it also means, if not that, a head coaching background where he has had access to offensive coordinators to hire. So it's going to be a package deal when it comes in. Yep.
Bring in Sean Payton. There were those rumors he was going to part ways with New Orleans last year. That'd be great. Bring him in, reunite him with Greg Williams. Probably a pipe dream.
Possibly, or it could be the start of a whole new bounty scheme.
Yeah. I'm all
for it.
Hey, I left that question for the Joe Thomas show today. If Greg Williams should restart the bounty gate thing by paying the receivers every time they catch the fucking ball.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the thing, and I'll leave the show because I obviously my food is getting cold and I can't let that happen. It is prepared. Is the Steelers are crying about Vontae's perfect, and I just want you to sit back and think about that for a moment before you eat your dinner, so that you will regurgitate your meal. The Steelers complaining about Vontae's perfect. You know, that's almost as sickening as Elizabeth Warren declaring she was part of the Wounded Knee thing. I mean, it just makes me want to vomit. All right, guys, you were great as always. All four of yous.
Mr. Moohead, shoot me a score for that Cleveland-Toronto game real quick before you get out. Just throw two numbers out. I don't care.
110 to 88.
God damn.
God damn.
Mr. Moohead, I just want to say thank you very much. I know I was late to the party, but thank you very much for having us on. It was a very good time.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, everybody out there in Moo Moo Land. We'll be back again Friday with another edition of Moohead Radio. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.